Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Visibility Factor podcast. This is Sue Barber, your host. In today's episode, we're going to focus on positioning yourself for the next level. Now, many times when I work with clients, they assume that they're doing all the right things and that people understand what they want and where they want to go, and they think that they're doing all the right things. But sometimes they're missing a few of the key parts of how to do it. So it's not what they're doing, sometimes it's the how. And unfortunately, I can't be in meetings with my clients or to hear the feedback directly from their leadership team unless I meet with their manager as well. So we'll use some situations that they've been in and talk about what happened in those situations where they thought that things weren't going as well as they would have liked them to. And what I'll ask them to do is share the scenario, tell me what's going on, and then share what they said. And I'm looking very specifically for the words that they're using and also the tone or how they're presenting the information to people. Now, this might be in situations in one-on-ones or in presentations or just in meetings with groups. But most of the time, the situations are similar enough that we can zone in on a couple of these things and talk about them. So for my client, in the first scenario, we'll talk about a one-on-one that he had with his boss. In the second scenario, we'll talk about a presentation that he did in front of his leadership team. So in the one-on-one with his boss, he was talking about a project that he was working on and sharing the update on it. And what he recognized during the conversation is that his boss had actually shifted positions from where they were originally going in the project and what the outcome was. And he was confused at first, of course, and he wasn't sure why things had changed. And so what we've been working on is to challenge in the moment, to be able to say something, ask a question, to make sure he doesn't just accept wherever this is going without understanding why. And so when he did that, he asked the question, hey, this is the direction you gave me initially, and now you've given me this direction. What changed? So that was really important language and very short and sweet, right? We're trying to be succinct. And in that situation, the manager then has to answer for why is there a change? And what are we trying to do there by him asking a little bit of a tough question to his manager? It's trying to hold his manager accountable for the direction that he's setting as a leader, but it's also setting a good perception of my client as someone who's willing to speak up and ask the hard questions. So even something as simple as that can be used as a way for people to start to see you differently. So don't be afraid to ask the hard questions, even if it's of your manager or your leadership team, because they need to start to see that you're willing to challenge, that you're willing to hold people accountable, that you're willing not to just say yes to every request that you get. And another part of the conversation, he was asking for permission from his manager on something to do. And I said, what's another way you could say it that might be stronger? Like, this is really what I want to work on, and here's why. Or here's a gap that we have in the organization and the impact that it's having. We need to address it. It gives his boss a chance to see him really thinking through and selling an idea and influencing and putting forth something that he really thinks is the best thing for the organization. So those are just two quick examples in a one-on-one situation where you might need to challenge, you might need to ask the hard questions, and don't be afraid to do that, because what we're trying to do is create a perception that you're ready for the next level. Now let's move into another example in a presentation, and in this situation, the client's presenting something to a group of leaders above him. He struggled a little bit with his position, meaning he didn't have a strong recommendation either way. And when I said to him, what do you think that does for the people in the audience when they're listening to that if you don't have a strong position? And he said, well, I guess that means that I don't really know what I want to do. I said, yes. And you haven't asked them for what you want from them. Remember, leaders like to solve problems. They like to get involved. And if they're a driver, a person who's really strong at making decisions, they're happy to jump in and give you an answer. So you have to present something with conviction. You have to talk about whatever you're presenting with some idea of where you want to go, or a recommendation, or that you're looking to present this information and get a decision. So in this client's case, he was on the fence. I said, what could you do to create a strong position? What do you need to know in order for you to do that? And I wanted him to think through that, because what happens is someone without a strong position just doesn't come across confidently. It doesn't come across as somebody who's willing to take a stand on something. And they need to see that from a future leader. So we talked about some scenarios of how he could do that, what he would need. It might be data, it might be research, might be conversations with other people in the organization. I wanted him to think about this because it's almost like a mini business case. If you've ever done a business case, you're trying to sell something to the organization and show why it's valuable, why you should do it. You can't always assume that everybody understands the day-to-day of what you're going through, and that you need to find ways to remind them. So that's why I talk a lot about taking people through the journey of where you've been, how you came to this decision, what the options are, what you reviewed, using data to help support your case. And that way it makes it really easy for them to understand what happened. Now, that doesn't mean they may not still have questions for you. They might. But then you're in a much stronger position because you've shown that you've done all the work. You've brought everything to the table that you can, that you know right now, and that there might be some assumptions that you've made, but at least you've brought it to a place where it feels like a good decision at this point. And without that, imagine if you are the leaders in that audience, they're trying to figure out, should we do something? Do you want us to do something? What is the intent of this meeting? So being clear with what you want to get out of a conversation where you're selling an idea is key. What's the outcome you want? What story do you have to tell to make sure that people understand that you've done the legwork, that you understand it all, that you've refuted any objections that they might have, that you've shown it to other people and gotten their input? You have to do some things to back up your case. And then tell them why you really think it's the right thing to do for the organization, that you've looked at all the options and you really feel like this is the right direction. They need to feel that passion. And sometimes I think that is a piece that's missing. If you're not showing why you truly believe at your core that this is the right thing to do, then why should they want to take it forward? You have to have the belief that this is the right thing to do for the company. You're selling your ideas, always. And no matter what group you're in, whether that's IT or procurement or HR, whatever group you're in, I want you to think of them as more of a business case that you can have a conversation and share the ideas with them so that they can get to an easy yes, because that's what you want. You want to be able to take this forward and move on the project, whatever it is. So for today's visibility action plan, I want you to think about your own situations. Are you asking the hard questions, no matter who might be in the room? Are you showing up with conviction and passion and belief that whatever you want to do is the right thing? Are you enlisting the help of others to help you look at objections you might get, or to have a list of things ready to go if you're asked? These are all things you need to prepare in advance. So think about the people that you're presenting to. This takes preparation and planning, but you will come across so much more confident when you do that. And that's what they need to see from you. They need to see that you're willing to step up, to challenge, to have the courage to do that in situations that are difficult. Because as you climb the ladder, situations don't get easier, they get much harder, and you have to be ready for that. So start that preparation now, no matter where you are in the organization. If this episode was helpful to you, I hope you'll share it with someone else who is looking to get promoted and needs new ideas of how to be seen differently. It can be as simple as changing your language, changing the way that you prepare for conversations, and thinking about your audience and what they need to hear from you in order for you to get a yes. Thanks so much for joining today on the Visibility Factor podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one.